Hey everybody, and welcome to Stream On. It is noon. It's lunchtime. It's time to start talking about all things sports and sports TV. And let's begin with the World Cup. First of all, I want to thank Chris Wheatley and Sean Miller and the entire team who do a wonderful job of breaking down what's going on in soccer and in, of course, the World Cup. So if you want to know who's going to win, if you want to know how it's going to happen and who's going to be the superstars, again, Chris and Sean are the guys. Their X handles are in the show box below. Without question, please follow Chris, follow Sean. You're going to love it. They got all the information. All right, so today, what I'm going to talk about, a couple things. One, let's talk about the coverage. Now, let me explain something to you, okay? It doesn't matter where you are in the entire world, right? If you're watching this in the Baltimore, Washington area of the United States where I am, if you're watching it in Vancouver, Canada, if you're watching it anywhere, you know that, it's an absolutely amazing undertaking because you're all getting the same picture. And the reason for that is it comes through the International Broadcast Center, which is in Dallas. That's where 2,000 people at this moment are working. Good to see you, Mecca. How you doing, buddy? Monster. We'll talk about Monster a little bit later. Meanwhile, back to the ranch. 2,000 people in the International Broadcast Center. That's where there comes a clean feed, okay? That just means there's no graphics on it. And so if you are watching it in Japan or watching it in any number of different countries around the world, that's where the graphics in your language are posted. That's where all of the interesting information that you might see, statistics and all, are gathered. And then it is sent out from there, okay? So there are people, obviously, at the stadiums around. Today in Foxborough, which for those of you who are not aware of where Foxborough is, it's it's a little bit south of Boston. It's maybe 20-25 miles south of Boston, and that's where France and Morocco are going to play. Now, that game's going to be on 4 p.m. Eastern time in the United States on Fox. For those who would like to stream it, you might want to try a free 7-day trial on Fox 1, which is, frankly, I think a good idea for those of you who want to stream it. So there you got that option. If you're in Canada, it's on TSN and Crave. Obviously, you can stream it on Crave and on TSN. French-speaking folks can get it on RDS. In the UK, it's BBC and ITV. Both of those have streaming apps, so you got that done. And here in the United States, for those of you who like to follow the games on Spanish, they're on over-the-air broadcast on Telemundo, as well as the Peacock app. So plenty of ways for you to get your soccer fix for this afternoon's World Cup. And as I said before, everything goes through the International Broadcast Center. Now, I'm going to talk, and I want you guys to chime in. Here is basically the folks who I want to talk about, which are the broadcast teams for World Cup. And we have some pretty good ones, and we have some that I'm not so sure what's going on there. Let's start with this one. The main group for Fox this afternoon is going to be Rebecca Lowe. By the way, she's done an outstanding job. Rebecca Lowe has been just super as Fox's main anchor on the pregame, halftime, and postgame shows. Excuse me. Jules Breach, who's also been involved. Pierce Molstein has been involved. Alexi Lawless has been involved. you got Clint Dempsey, you got a number of different people. All of them are on and involved. Just a second, I wanted to mention. Um, oops, so he's gone now. So anyway, just wanted to mention the fact that there's some phenomenal broadcasters being involved in this tonight, today. So without question, by all means, um, check it out on Fox. They do a good job. I'm a little over Lexi Lawless. I don't think he's as good as he might be, but we'll see how that works out for them. Um, so anyway, that's where we are at the moment, and by all means, check it out. Now we're going to bring in our buddy here to talk about what's going on with Monster and the Big 12 deal. And if you just click there, my friend, you can join me in just a second, and we can talk about the Big 12 media days, which were going on over the last few days. And welcome.
Jim, good morning.
Yes, sir. Welcome. Hello?
Hello.
Take your time there. So, big Big 12 media days, past couple days. And the Monster energy drink deal. And curious as to what's going on with that.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, that wasn't going through at first.
No, you're there. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. Yeah, I was just guessing at what you were going to talk about there, but this has been quite a ridiculous show on I don't know, at least on X. I don't know if you're seeing any other networks, social networks, but it seems like there's a whole lot of miscommunication, bad information about the whole deal as a whole. Are you pretty well versed on it, or?
Yeah, I think it was a stupid deal.
Why do you think it was a stupid deal?
I think it was a stupid deal because what you're doing is you've brought on a marketing partner, okay, which is fine. I mean, there's no reason not. I mean, we've all done marketing deals over the years. I'm talking about conferences. When I did the Big Ten, the Big Ten title sponsor was Stores Beer, and which was out of Detroit, and so it was the Stores Big Ten Game of the Week. Um, what Brett did from a marketing standpoint wasn't a. Here's why I think it was a bad deal.
Mm-hmm.
There's if I want to say, for instance, we'll just pick West Virginia for sake of argument. If I'm West Virginia and I have to put on my uniforms, on my field, on my courts, and everywhere else, Monster Energy, and I'm getting $1 million for it. What about my local sponsors who are paying me more to put the same logos either on my field or in some cases on the courts? I mean, basically that they've given that exclusive right for $1 million. I don't see where that's a good deal.
What I see that they have done is on every court, field, and on every jersey, every uniform,
right,
currently is a Big 12 patch or emblem.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What they've agreed to do is somehow work into that emblem the Monster Energy.
Sure, it's the logo.
Right. So they haven't actually sold anything that could be available to anything else. And their logo isn't necessarily earning any money. So they've kind of created an extra patch for earning. Now,
Well,
if you want to say like that's in bad taste, or they could get more
no,
for
no,
that,
no, no.
I
That's
don't know. I'm
yeah.
not, a
I'm not
marketing guy,
saying,
but
yeah, I'm not saying it's in bad taste. Okay.
kind of
What
is.
I'm saying is, if
I
I'm an
mean,
advertiser,
yeah.
and I have spent, I'll use Maryland as an example.
Hmm.
They play in the Xfinity Center. Okay.
Hmm.
Xfinity's Comcast, for those of you who don't know. Um, and they've got logos all over the place.
Hmm.
If Monster Energy has been the title sponsor and everything that they've got going on, it devalues my money I'm spending by putting my logos and others, other investments I've made in the sports department by saying, well, this is our official sponsor. And oh, by the way, yeah, you can put something on there, but our Big 12 quote unquote logo is going to have Monster Energy on it. It
That's fair.
devalues my brand.
I get that. And in fact, there was actually some reporting that came out afterwards that the schools were waiting for this to be finalized before they could finalize some of their own patch deals, because I guess, while talking with their potentials, this became a thing. So expecting a whole bunch of new patch deals to get signed within the Big 12 now. But yeah, this as to what you're saying, this was affecting the deal. So it kind of feels pushed to me, rushed.
Well, I think
Like,
it was Brett was trying to do a deal where he was involved and in charge of, you know, involved and in charge of the um, the conference had a sponsor. Okay.
mhm.
But I guess my question is, did he give up too much? And I say that with great respect because Brett is a good marketing guy. Okay.
Mhm.
It's not like he makes bad deals. But, my buddies at front office sports did a really good article, and I highly recommend anybody who has not seen it to go and read it, where they went through speaking with a number of different um, folks involved with just not just college sports, but sports in general. All of whom were saying, man, $1 million to put it on, per per institution's court is just way too small.
Could I address that real quick?
Sure.
Now, I am not a marketing professional, so take this grain of salt. But to me, there's two approaches on this. There's pure value extraction out of a deal, right?
Hmm.
And that's the
Sure.
amount you're getting paid. You can maximize that, and that's pretty much all you're getting out of a deal is just them paying you. What kind of seems to me is Yormark has slid that slider farther to the side, where instead of just extracting value out of the deal,
Hmm.
part of the valuation for him is what he sees. And this part, I am totally open, like people saying it's not as much value as he thinks, but the value of being part of Monster's advertising and marketing around the world.
Hmm.
I don't know what the value of that is, but it looks to me like him and his team seem to highly value that, because that seems to be like the under talked about portion of the deal, is that they're now involved in all of Monster's marketing around the globe. And so I think his task that he's been tasked with by the presidents is not just in value extraction right now, short term, but growth. Like, to try to grow themselves to be more competitive, I guess. So I don't know if this will work in doing that. But I just think that there's maybe a little bit more to it than just comparing value extraction numbers.
Here's what your Mark said about the deal. This deal was a year in the making, and the process includes speaking to dozens of national brands. We ultimately landed on the ideal place with Monster. When you factor in both the net economics to the conference and the financial commitment being made to achieve and market Big 12 to new audiences domestically and internationally, it was a good move for us. Now, here's what a couple of people from front office sports, um, said. Objectively, he thinks it's a terrible deal, and here's why. He could have and should have gotten more than $1 million per school. The schools would be getting less from annual payouts from their quote unquote their title sponsors. Another person said the value of a school specific jersey patch alone should have been worth at least $3 million per school. And it goes on and on. There's others who shoot holes in it.
See,
I'm not
I don't
saying it
know
was
if
a
you can
bad
say
deal.
that's objectively. I don't know if they're using the term objectively, and I don't mean to these people deal with this more than I do, but
Right.
I think saying objectively it does that is an overstatement. I think it's possible, like you brought that up, like it could, but also those sponsors and those specific spots on the jersey get to have their entire emblem or their
Right.
whatever they want to put on there. That's entirely theirs. Whereas Monster's not getting that. It'll probably be like a little green M behind the Big 12 thing, or it's not a full spot. So when I don't want it to be like I'm critiquing these guys, but I think objectively is a bit too strong. In fact, we saw right afterwards they got one, and I think I've seen like 2 or 3 schools are now looking to finalize their deals. Like to some degree, yeah, it's. I think it caused some of those to be held up, and that's why I think this got rushed.
Well, here's, there's gamesmanship everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, let's assume for the moment, fair enough, that you are correct. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
That there's no reason for me to be upset. I'm going to create a reason to be upset.
Okay.
It gives me leverage against you.
Fair. Oh yeah.
You say, wait a minute. I'm paying you X amount of dollars to put the logo on my logo on your jersey. Mm-hmm. And oh, by the way, you're double dipping. You're getting $1 million from Monster to put the Big 12 logo on there with the Monsters logo in it. Okay. So I'm using that as a leverage point. It has nothing to do with Monster. It has to do with giving me leverage to pay you less.
You mean leverage from the conferences using against members?
No, I'm talking about, let's say
another sponsor with one of the schools.
Right. Let's say for the moment I'm, I'll use Publix because they put their logo on the fields at the University of Florida in South Florida. They pay $3 million for the right to put their logo there. If I now know that Monster's coming in and putting a logo, even though it's embedded in the Big 12, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go, wait a minute. I'm not paying you $3 million for this. I might even get upset, and if I have a contract in place, and say, wait a minute, what's exclusive? Am I exclusive or is Monster exclusive? Because on all of the information out there, Monster's the exclusive. Not one thing is written about me. So all I'm saying is it gives me, as a potential advertiser, some leverage to get a better deal out of the school than I might have gotten otherwise.
Yeah. I certainly don't have anything to push back on that with. I would say we're just gonna have to wait and see on that.
I
It's
guess
just at that point,
that,
the schools are gonna have to push back a little bit on them, and hopefully they have more than one looking to do this. If you only have one or so looking to do this, then yeah, you're gonna have a hard time in your negotiations. If you have 3 or 4 or 5 that are interested, then I would say it probably affects that less because someone's going to be like, screw it, we don't care. And then once
yeah.
you get that first one at a good number,
Mhm.
you can sell the second one at a good number. So you
Yeah,
could be right with some of these. It just depends upon how many fish they have on the hook, so to speak.
right. And most of these, are alumni who are involved, right? I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
companies have
Mm-hmm.
some sort of relationship that
You have to want to be
transcends,
there.
yeah, that transcends, just the fact that, you know, that I'm a national brand, but I want to put my national brand on, um, you know, on the field, but I'm a local brand. Like I said, local in the state of Florida, Publix is a grocery store, and they have they have their logos on the fields in Florida and at South Florida. Um, and they're local Florida, grocery store.
Yep.
So, and the reason that they're doing it is because one, the president of the company graduated from Florida, and his son graduated from South Florida. So these are alumni boosters who write a check and say, okay, we're sponsoring the field. So internationally and all that, I get what Brett's trying to say, and you know, is it a horrible deal? I think time will tell. I don't think it's a horrible deal,
Yeah, it
but
could
I
end
do.
up being a horrible deal, but
But if you're the Big Ten, right,
Mhm.
and you see this, or the SEC, or hell, even the ACC, see that this kind of branding deal is being done, you can sit there and go, well, okay, this is what they only got $1 million off this. What the hell? I mean, we need to get minimum $3 or $4 million because we certainly outdraw them all the time.
Yeah, Big 12 is just kind of setting the market.
Yeah,
Is what
and they set it low.
maybe. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's certainly possible. I mean, that'll be determined by which
Let me give
similar
you,
deals in the
let
future
me give
get
you
signed.
a couple of stats, okay?
Mhm.
And this is why I'm bringing it up. This is gonna. I know everybody's gonna bitch at me for crashing the Big 12, and I'm not. Okay, I am not doing that. I'm simply playing what I used to play for a living, and that is negotiating contracts. And what's going to happen is that there's a bunch of people who are sitting there with the opportunity to say, all right, um, Tony Petiti calls up his buddies, at let's just say, because they're a Midwestern company, Progressive Insurance. He calls Dan Gilbert up, and he says, Dan, this is what Brett got for the Big 12. You want in on this deal? We can sell it to you, but it's going to cost you between $3 and $4 million a school. So I guess what I'm saying is he set the bar, which is fine.
Mhm.
But did he set the bar too low?
Possibly, absolutely possible. And it's a 5-year deal. It's not like
Mhm.
it's a long-term one. So if he did, and then this next 5 years, if some other conferences come and set better deals, he can readjust in 5 years, right?
Now let me just say this, and I think it's important to note, and that is any opportunity the Big 12 or any conference has to get extra money for their universities should not be seen as a mistake. Okay?
Mhm.
I'm not saying that Brett made a mistake.
No, yeah, I didn't think you did. You're analyzing this
Yeah,
from what you have done in life, which is credible.
right.
So
So, I
I think
mean,
there's value in that.
I think that what he gave away was, I mean, maybe it was the best deal you could get. And that's
I would
okay.
hope so. Otherwise,
You would. Now,
he's a sweetheart deal.
Monster Energy is, is a good brand, right?
Uh-huh.
And it demographically hits perfectly,
Kind of
because
where they're trying to go. Yeah.
where they go. So all of the what he put together is, I have no beef with any of it at all. My only question is, did he set it a little too low? Now,
Yeah.
we won't know that for a couple of years. And being fair, okay, even though the front office sports people, trashed the deal, and I think that it might have been, he might have been able to squeeze a little bit more out of that deal than just $1 million per university. Because if you look at the branding, right,
Mhm.
most of those stadiums in the Big 12 are absolutely positively packed every game. It's a it's the ethos of the Big 12. They really, they do a wonderful job of showing up to the football games. And so I'm not going to say that Monsters was a bad partner. Of course, Monsters is a great partner. I think that what we're going to have to evaluate as the time goes on is, was that deal, something that basically um, was not as appealing as it could have and should have been. Because let me ask you this question: if they add one or two more teams,
Or four.
I'm wondering if Monsters in on that one too. They'll throw.
Well, they are, because they're the Big 12 partner. So anyone who joins the Big 12, you're going to put the Big 12 emblem on your field, on your
Right.
court. So it comes with that. So I get where you're going. You're saying, would a potential new member coming in look at that and go, we don't want that on our stuff, and so that would change their minds?
Well, they may already have something that's paying them more. Is what I'm saying.
I don't think there's any, no, because this is the only reason why I've really kind of jumped into this, is people have been mistakenly thinking this was taking up one of the spots that the schools could sell. It's not.
No, it's not.
So I don't know what this would take from anything that the schools could do. What I thought was very interesting coming from you is saying that this might affect the amount that those schools could get for those spots.
Right.
That's a marketing thing. Like, that's your thing. I'm like, okay, all right, that I'm taking that in. And that's what I'm saying. Maybe if this gets proven, like, there's, word is out now that we're going to see some deals coming from the schools, like they were waiting on this.
Mm-hmm.
If we see that this lowers the value of what they could get on those,
right,
I think that at least has enough potential to affect realignment that you at least have to talk about it. Like, in the end, it may not and probably wouldn't, but it is something to weigh and measure.
Right. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I if it were me, and by the way, Brett didn't call me, so that's okay.
Is lost. Anyways.
Well, I doubt that, but anyway, if I'm going to make a deal like this, right, I might hold off until the TV media deal is getting done, because I can say to Monster, all right, look, I've got a shot at landing. We'll just take Virginia Tech, for instance. I have a chance of landing Virginia Tech, maybe Louisville, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does that value add to you? Because I need usually when you do negotiation deals like this, You go in and you say, I need X number, whatever that number is. Well, let's say it's 2 million, right?
Mhm.
And Monster, you know what, Brett, we want to be partners with you. We want this opportunity to happen. We think it'll be a good deal, but you know what? We can do one.
Mhm.
And they just they change paper back and forth. And at the end of the day, they find a number that they can live with, and both sides sign a deal. I think perhaps, and again, I'm not shooting holes in the deal. I mean,
No, no, no. Good question,
but
though.
what I am saying is the leverage is on the side of the advertiser. One, two, if he had waited just a couple years more, could he have gotten a better deal? Because they don't need that money right now.
Could I address that real quick?
Sure, of course.
I would say it's a 5-year deal. If
Right.
if a school is to announce right now, they're probably still not joining for another 2 years.
Right.
So you've got 2 to 3 years that you're with this. I think
I
I
get what you're
think
saying. By the time it means something,
yeah, you're already starting to look at your next one.
right? You're
Like
looking
now
ahead
you're
to your
starting to,
next step.
I mean, I'd say maybe, the perfect amount of time would have been like 3 years instead of 5. But yeah, whatever. You get what you can. But I think that's, I don't know the business. Like you got to tell me, like, but that seems like actually a short term contract.
Well, it might be. Let's look at it from this angle, right?
Mhm.
It might be a proof of concept, saying, "All right, we did the deal with Monster. Everything rolled out nicely. It looked good. Everybody was happy. Everybody got a check out of this deal. It wasn't necessarily as much as we wanted, but it was a nice check. Now we move into our next deal, and if maybe it's Monster, maybe it's somebody else. Okay, and maybe this time instead of 1, we get 4 or 3 or 2, right? So I get that part. It's a part. It's a possibility that it's a proof of concept that you know what, I'm doing this deal now. What does it do? It gives a Big 12 publicity, good or bad, all over sports media from the standpoint of what it says and what it does, and and it puts a little bit of cash in the pockets of my members. So again, there's a number of ways to look at this, and I do think that if it's a proof of concept, well then fine. If it's if you're selling your soul to Monster, um, in that deal, and by the way, the whole thing that this was a landmark, it's really not. I mean, there's been other conferences that have done these kind of deals. That was back in the day when we weren't talking about multiple games on television and all that, right? We're
Mhm.
talking about everybody wanted to add money to the coffers no matter how they could get it. And so, you would do deals where, you had a major sponsor. For many years, the Big 12's major sponsor was Phillips 66. And they had their logos all over the place. But, that was when the conference decided, it was a good idea to get involved with these types of deals. And we'll find out. And we'll find out whether Monster is a good deal or a bad deal over a period of time. Um, I'm just throwing some things out there
Yeah.
that just say, okay, let's see where this goes. Because as you pointed out, maybe there's 3 or 4 deals that are coming down the road that are not only not affected by this, but maybe there's a bit of a competition situation where they say, you know what, yeah, I definitely want to be on that field, and this is what I'll pay for it. So I don't know. It's going to have to be. You've got each member's going to probably have a different look at this, and whether it's a windfall or whether it's something that screws them up or whatever, it's going to be on a school by school basis. It's not going to necessarily be a conference basis.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people rushing to judgment, as with always, because this is a very big public announcement. Personally, I think they rushed it, and I think the evidence of that is that they didn't have the emblem ready to show yet.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
And that caused a lot of confusion, man. Like, I went through multiple conversations with people who thought that this was taking, and I didn't know differently at the time, that this was taking one of the school's spots, right? The schools per Division I policy get two advertising spots. And, going back and looking at the press release and everything, like, wait, no, this is it's co-branded.
It's a co-brand, yeah.
So it's the Big 12 pass that's always been there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of the outrage, I guess you could call it, that's out there isn't about anything that we just talked about, right? And the reasonable things to critique this on. And so, like, if that's the case, it's just, someone's reasonably critiquing it like you're doing, that's what people need to hear to realize, like, okay, there is some real things to talk about here, but there's so much, like, false stuff that's out there to get through first.
Right. I understand. I'm just saying it. You can couch it any way you want. I'm not speaking about you. I'm talking about the conference. Can couch it any way they want to. But if there's a big M involved with the logo of the conference, it's still an advertisement.
It is 100%. Yeah.
So for them to say, well, it's not really an advertiser, is, I mean, okay, fine.
I get what you're saying there. I
mean, you want to say that, fine, you can say it, but it's an advertiser. How else could you say I did a landmark deal with somebody who is not going to benefit from this because we're going to hide their logo?
So, I mean,
as it's embedded in my Big 12 logo.
Now, an advertiser, they're paying to advertise on your spot, on your asset. A partner also advertises for you, which is what this is. So maybe that's why. I'm doing the same thing here.
There's. I guess the problem that I found was there wasn't a lot of detail in what the hell this deal was.
100% with you on that. Like that, to me, it's felt rushed and pushed together.
So for me to sit here and say, okay, well, this is that, and I'm really just going on what I know and what, from a branding standpoint and from an advertising standpoint. And I mean, we did deals with NFL teams, we did deals with college teams, we did deals with the NBA, with all of them, right? Mm-hmm. And every time we did, it was like, you can't have, if I'm the Ford dealers, right, and I'm sponsoring something, you better not have a Chevy dealer in that building, in the same building I'm at, because I paid for that. And, they're paying less, but, the matter of the fact is we controlled all the advertising. So when we signed on an NFL team or a college team, there wasn't a negotiation from the standpoint of, we're going to give you money, but by the same token, you're going to have, hang on a second, we got a question. We'll get to you in a second. Have they reconciled the Monster is bottled by Coca-Cola and for some schools are Pepsi schools? That's a very good question. I have no idea. It was not spelled out in the in the press release. That's a good question, though.
I think that brings up a good segue to kind of where to direct is, okay, there have been reports coming out that other schools are going to be following this up. Like they knew this was coming. and it somehow is affecting their dealings with the other advertisers, much to what you were talking about. Just kind of credibility for yourself there. It's like that seems to be a thing. So they needed this to come out. I think for those looking to really credibly look at this and judge this, that's where we look next. Like as she's saying, how is this going to affect those next deals? If those deals come out and, experts such as yourself and others at FOS and wherever are saying, look, those deals now are underpriced. I think that's a much more black and white situation than this deal because, advertiser partnership, however we want to figure it, I think there's more value to this than just the money they're getting paid by Monster. On those other well, they're saying that they're getting in all of Monster's marketing in 100 countries around the world. So Monster is using Big 12 in their marketing. So, so that I think you have to add some value. I don't know how much to value that at, but that's part of the equation. But where I think this is where you really could kind of dig in and go, okay, now we have something. It's like what she's saying and what you've been saying. Watch these next patch deals coming out by these schools. If those are low end, then this definitely affected that. If those seem reasonable, then I would say any type of marketing damage is minimal.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I'm not dunking on Brett. I'm not dunking on the conference. All right. What I'm asking, and I think you and I both are asking the same thing. The devil's always in the details, and we have no details. All we have is what's going to happen with them. Are we going to see Big 12 logos on Monster drink cans in England? If we're going to go international on this, how does that work? I mean, they didn't even have a person from Monster there.
Yeah, definitely felt rushed.
So I got a partnership that I want to announce to the entire world, and my partner doesn't show up.
No, 100%. It's a good critique, and that's why I think it's rushed, and I think the other schools needed it to happen because
I get
the
it.
rollout could have been a lot better.
Sometimes it would have been better. He could have. Again, this is me armchair quarterbacking, and I apologize if I offend anybody, but
no, don't worry about that.
It's just a matter of if I'm going to roll something like this out, where I'm going to get scrutinized by people like front office and by my former colleagues at Sports Business Journal and all the other folks who are going to look at this and go, I'm not sure, what is this? What the hell did they do here? I want it to be bulletproof before I do it. I don't want to go into a press conference where I'm defending something that I think I did right because I don't have my partner with me who's going to explain. I know they had a bunch of Monster merch that they were giving out, which was great. That's lovely. But that's not a partnership. That's a merch deal. So I just want to know what the partner is going to do. That's all. I mean, if this is, I know what the conference is going to do, but I don't know what the other side's going to do to help me here. And that's, I think, probably if we find out in the coming months that Monster's going to put them on, the Big 12 logo and on some of the drink cans, and they're going to
be pretty huge.
Yeah, they could do all kinds of very interesting and very creative things, right?
Yeah.
Monster's involved with NASCAR. Monster's involved with a number of different things. So being involved with Monsters, there's no bad to it, right? It's not a bad thing. But I don't know what they're involved with. And I think that's the most perplexing thing for me is that, I'm sitting here going, well, okay, I'm putting my hat on right now and going, yeah, I'm not going to pay you $1 million, which I might have paid you before, because you've devalued my brand.
Possibly.
And that's a possible. I don't know.
Right. No, it's a
but right now, when I'm in, and you talked about it just a minute ago, these schools are in negotiations with their own, partners. And, did Brett help me yesterday or the other day or whenever the hell it was? Or did he hurt me? I don't know yet. And I think for people to praise him or to stick a fork in him right now is unfair. Now I can sit here and say, well, this is what other people have said. And you and I just, I just told you what I thought. I don't know.
And just
I
to be
know
clear,
this much.
I'm not praising it
right
either.
Now, if it were right now, I would be on the phone saying, all right, I don't know what you just did, but I'm not paying you extra to put your stuff on my platform until I know what you gave away. And we don't even know that.
Yeah.
So I think it was rushed, and I think that
definitely,
could they've done a better? I don't know, because I don't know what they ended up with on the other side.
I think we have to know if he was getting some pressure to announce this so that, because I don't have the links and everything to point to you, but just what I saw, like one of the major ones was Utah.
Yeah.
That is working on a deal. And it seems like they wanted this to come out so that way they could get those deals figured out. Like they were probably sitting and saying, well, the conference is coming out with a partner here, and they couldn't say anything.
Right, sure.
Probably to those. So like it was just this holdup, like, well, what is it? So I don't know if that's going to affect it positively or negatively or not at all. It just seems like some of them needed this. So he just threw this out there, and he was doing it for them. Probably didn't foresee, the fallout on this. And so now I do think that they need to kind of work on that full scale partnership announcement. This is what it's all about. Like they need to get that out as soon as possible.
Yeah. The thing is, we're in July, right? We're only a little over a month away from actual football. Mm-hmm. And you would have already signed your deals, your advertising deals, because all that stuff has to be third quarter, money, right? And so I think that's something that we're looking at and trying to find out, right?
Possibly.
Is, you sell your radio, you sell your the program stuff in that you buy when you step in the stadium. All of that. It's like Carla Jenkins, said that she wanted to know about the Pepsi versus the Coke deal. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that's already baked in. And so I think what they wanted to know, I'm talking about the member schools, as you had mentioned, they needed to know what the hell Brett had up his sleeve so that they could go back and try to make certain that didn't in any way affect the sponsorship deals that they have presently in place. Yep, it's conceivable, I'm not saying it happens, but it's conceivable that if I signed a deal and the conference signed a deal, my contract, depending upon how it's written, can be renegotiated. So I guess what concerned me about the whole thing was there's a whole lot more that I don't know than I do know.
Yeah. And that's where like a more proper full announcement focused on the partnership. Like this kind of seemed thrown out there at media days, and probably not something that should have just been thrown out at media days. But we did see one such deal come out. I think for timelining this, I think it was right afterwards, but maybe it was right before. But I'm sure it came once they got word. Kansas signed a patch deal with a crypto company,
Okay.
that I forget the whole name of it, but they showed their patch about the same time. So that's one where you would say, okay, that was not affected by this at all. So it was able to just finalize. But we haven't seen any others yet.
We also don't know what the amount of the crypto deal was worth.
They did, I think.
Did they say?
I don't have any of that in front of me.
Look, don't worry about that.
I'm only bringing it up in terms of like timelining. Is that obviously there's one that was not affected by this much, so it's like they heard, okay, yep, just go forward.
Yeah, move on.
We didn't hear from the Utah one. I think there was Colorado. Like, some of the reporting is some of these schools were waiting on this, and we haven't seen anything about those deals yet. So, I mean, I don't know how long it would take to finalize, but it could mean that caused some conversation to happen.
I am absolutely certain there were people, the moment that Brett went up there and started talking about, Monster and what they were going to do, that there are ADs, all around that room getting phone calls from back home saying, what the hell did you just do?
Carla just put the value of that in chat, by the way. She's on top of it.
Sorry?
Carla put the value of that Kansas deal in chat.
Thank you very much, Carla.
She's on top of things.
Carla's our research department.
She's doing pretty good. She even posted
well done, Carla.
On X.
It's a $30 million deal. Okay, fine. Very good. Okay. Let's hope that
and you see that 5-year deal thing again, right?
All right. It's the same. It lines up with It lines up with the earmarks deal. Okay. Let's hope that the crypto is worth $30 million by the time.
I mean, I saw the picture of it, and this one of those patches. You're like, ugh. But I think we're going to get that with a lot of them. I mean, I even did that for the Culver's one for Wisconsin. I went, ugh. But that's one that is very much within the culture of Wisconsin. It's a good patch. It's this blue patch on their red. Like, it's going to stand out. Great for Culver's, but it's going to stand out. And this one kind of is just this block on there. It doesn't really fit in well. But this is going to be a practice that is a little rough at first for these schools.
Sure. I mean, if you look over Major League Baseball, they've sold their patches. NHL hockey's done the same thing.
So they're a little bit better at it.
Yeah. They try to incorporate the color, what might normally be the color of the logo of the company in the MLB cases is basically just, if you're on the Cincinnati Reds jersey, it's going to be red. It's it's whether your logo is red or not. That's the way it's going to be. So anyway, I do, I'm willing to take some time to listen here, but if I were dealing with the universities, I would be, from an advertising standpoint, I would be concerned about what, how this affects me. And I guess what probably would have prompted me yesterday to do that and wonder why you're taking a lot of money from me, meaning, I'm going to invest a lot of money in West Virginia or whatever. And now the conference has jumped me here and got a lot of press that I'm not going to get. And so I think it would have been much nicer had someone from Monster, Coca-Cola, whatever, been there with Brett and say, you know what? Well, I'm here to answer those questions. Can't wait to do this. We're going to have them. There's going to be the Monster Big 12 logo on NASCAR, our NASCAR teams, on other things that we've got involved with. And here's the global reach of what this deal is worth. It could be worth to the universities. Yeah, it's worth $1 million in cash right now, but it can grow over a period of time.
And that's the problem with presenting this at media days, is that he has a very specific timeline amount of time to present not just this but everything, and it's really not that much time. So
Right.
this is, I just think it has a very rushed feel, and certainly there's going to be a reason for that. But they're gonna have, like everything that you're saying, like they're gonna have to at some point in time come out with a full-on announcement, and it won't be in a place that is so obvious. So they're gonna have to bring media in to the offices at Dallas, have a
Right.
full press release on it, do this whole thing on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that that's like logistical difficulties of media days, is that you would think that that's the perfect place because it's media days, but there's so much that he's trying to fit in a short amount of time that he has at the podium, that this is the way they went. And I think we're seeing some fallout of that choice, and maybe it's still the best choice because of things that we can't see behind the scenes.
Right.
But it has definitely created a mess, and it's been the most annoying thing to me is like spending time even really talking about it when
Right.
you have potentially much bigger stuff looming. So in that case, it's been one hell of a distraction.
Yeah. Um, and look, Brett usually is very cool, right? I mean, he handles the media well. He handles. I mean, that's his job. I mean,
Yeah.
he's been doing this for years. What I didn't understand was, and again, there was a lot of folks who started yelling about the gotcha question from Texas Tech, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, the guy asked a legitimate question. I don't see why Brett got upset about that. There's a number of ways he could have answered it, and he absolutely has that capability. Brett can always do PayPal patch, and it's an official payment processor for the NIL. That's a great one. You ought to send that to him, Carla. Um,
You might have tried.
yeah, you might.
You might
I'll
have
be happy.
tried.
I'll be happy to provide you his address. Anyway, um, yeah. I mean, I just again, there were a lot of people, and I know it's a very pro Big 12 audience there, but the guy asked a legitimate question.
I have a theory on that.
Okay.
I think from what we saw from comments made, I don't even
Mm-hmm.
know. Like sometimes media will go around to different people who are just present, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll ask them things. And a question was asked to Cody Campbell, and his talking points, somehow wherever he was at, seemed to be very conciliatory, and were all
Mm-hmm.
about like everyone else in the Big 12 needs to up their game and raise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean, people might say, "Well, what a jerk move!" Like, no, I actually see that as like he's actually talking pro conference now, right? He's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we want this conference to be better, and so it kind of seemed to me like, okay, so now we're going in a conciliatory term
Mm-hmm.
because he is the chair of the board at Tech. Like, it's not just like some donor who's just going off,
No.
which that can, when they do that, there's just nothing you could do about it. I mean, this is the chair of the board there. So I felt like it was very much conciliatory, yet maybe Brett felt that this guy who is from Lubbock
Mm-hmm.
might have been, shall we say, because he was reading off of something. It wasn't like this was coming to the top of his head. He was flubbing it. He was reading off of a paper. It kind of felt like maybe he was put up to it, and maybe he was feeling like, on one hand, they're dealing nice with me. On the other
Mm-hmm.
hand, they're pushing this guy out here. So I don't. That's my possible feeling on it, but could be wrong. It just kind of like
Well, I mean,
maybe that's how he felt.
I guess the thing that I was that I thought was interesting was that Brett was, in some regards, either pissed off or rattled by something that normally wouldn't piss him off or rattle him.
Right. Which I think is bigger than just that guy asking that question.
Yeah. So, so there were a lot of people dunking on that guy. And I'm like, well, look, when you have a press conference, you don't know what questions are going to be asked. And if somebody asks a question which you think is, out of line, you just sit there. I mean, in the case of, in Brett's case, he could have sat there and go, you know what? I've spoken to Cody about this. I've spoken to, all the folks that, at Tech. We're all singing from the same songbook here. Whatever has to be done to make this right, we're going to do it. They're going to do it. I'm not concerned about this. And move on.
Yeah.
He didn't, again, I'm not his press secretary, so that's, I don't know, but it's just, I've seen Brett many, many times before in many, many more difficult situations than that, handle the New York press constantly very well. The fact that he was pissed off by somebody from Lubbock, I find
it's kind of telling, though, right? Like it tells us something. We just have to figure out what exactly it's telling.
Well, yeah, and I don't. Again, I saw the clip a couple of times, and I think the first time the guy asked the question, he put it. He had it. Sometimes I've seen reporters, myself included. You write down something that you want to ask, you ask it, and then somebody goes, well, what is it you wanted? I didn't hear it, or what's it again you wanted to ask me? And then you're like, well, crap, I just read it. Now I got the piece of paper here. I wrote it down. Now you go back and get it. So yeah, so
which shows you that your Mark skill, right? Like he knew what he was doing when you did that.
Yeah, I mean,
you saw him reading off the paper.
Yeah, and so he basically wanted to, confront the guy.
Yeah,
and it was like, it was like kabuki theater, right? It's like, all right, the guy asked a question.
It was a little strong.
It wasn't a gotcha question. It was a strong question. And it wasn't necessarily a flattering question by any stretch of the imagination. But it wasn't unfair. So, and by the way, we know that Cincinnati's getting whacked for this. So, from the NCAA. So there was a lot of things going there, and I just didn't. Two things that got me on that. One, I don't think it was unfair. B, I didn't like the fact that after it was all over, all of these guys went back to their podcast areas and started dunking on this guy from Texas Tech. And pardon me, but the guy has a right to ask a question. Whether you think it or I think it to be a wrong question, that's up to us. But the commissioner standing there in front of a group of people, and he's there to answer questions. And he doesn't get to pick whether he wants to answer that one or doesn't want to answer another one, right? And you either handle it or you don't. And it was very out of character for me to see Brett, who normally is a very cool, calm, collected guy, seem to be, ticked off by something was coming from Texas Tech. Now, maybe, as you said, just because that's kind of and by the way, we shouldn't forget the fact that also Cody Campbell is heavily involved in this Washington bill that's creeping its way through Congress.
For it.
Well, I'm sorry?
He's the front guy for it.
So there's a lot of
so I say there's a lot of things that may not be visible.
Yeah, there's a lot
most people judging this.
A lot of sensitivity, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Right there, right? So the sensitivity aspect I get, but I just think that if you're gonna have a media day, for God's sake, be ready for it. And I guess what we have two things. We had the monster announcement, which wasn't really necessarily the full announcement that we hoped for. And then we saw this, bit of, as I said, kabuki theater between Brett and a Texas Tech a Texas Tech reporter, and it was I it was a little surreal for that, and it takes away from what's going to happen when you have these media days. The coaches come up and they have an opportunity to talk, and then they go down Radio Row and talk to all the other different people, and you get an opportunity to get a one-on-one with people that you normally wouldn't. And so it's a good opportunity, but you don't want to flub it. And I don't know what happened with the conference deal. I think they just it wasn't as smooth as it could have and should have been.
Yes.
But that's just an observation. I don't know, but I don't. Whenever it was over, it was like, well, it was a great deal. It's like, okay, maybe it is. I don't know, but right now,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more unknown than there is known about it. Like, we're gonna have to see how it affects. First off, I think first thing to critique it on are whatever deals get announced by the schools that they are now working on. If they're under in value, then
No, don't.
definitely can question this. If market folks say, these seem to be on point, then I would say that there was very little damage done in that regard.
Well, even let's
We'll just
let's
have to
say,
see.
yeah, let's say this. Let's say that they come back and we find out that the guy who wasn't there from or woman, depending, who wasn't there to speak on behalf of the Coca-Cola company, wasn't involved. Well, and then they show up and they explain about all of the goodies that come from the deal from the monster standpoint. Well, then suddenly we're sitting there going, you know what? This might have been one of the most brilliant things that has been pulled off in recent memory.
Yeah, and I mean, I made a posting. I think there's going to be a lot of folks who have gone all in with their shows, attacking this. It's like there's going to be some folks that might be wanting to quietly not be reminded of those words, because there's a lot we don't know, and that's probably the biggest critique, is like that the way this was put out was not done with a proper press release for something of this nature. I mean, they are setting the bar, they are setting the market, and it was just kind of like, oh, by the way, like what's the patch look like? What's this going to look like on the court, on the field? What exactly is the Big 12 label going to be on in terms of Monsters products, in terms of their advertising? Is it just like a quick little blurb at the end of an ad? Oh, partners with official partner of the Big 12 conference. Like, you see that a lot, right?
Yeah.
So like their ads, if that's all it is, well, I mean, I don't know if that's worth. I don't know how much that's worth, but I think these type of details are what a person such as yourself could evaluate. And I just think that there's not a lot to evaluate here.
Unfortunately, no. It would be nice to know. Now here's our research department. Carl is here. It came across like,
She's talking about the
on behalf of
questions from the tech guy.
Cody, I felt a way to the journalist didn't need a script. Again,
It felt like the question didn't come from the guy, because a guy would come up with his own question in a way that he can better pronounce, better put forward, and this guy just stumbled all over it. So it felt like something was handed to him.
I see. That's where I'm going to do a little pushback on this.
Okay.
And that is, reporters and I'm not saying all of them, but some of them, you know, you're on a platform where he may not ever have been before. Okay, meaning he's in front of cameras. This is being broadcast all over the place. I mean, it's a situation where you get a question. I don't know how many times the guy's spoken to Brett Yermark. I don't even know if they know each other. I don't know any of that background information on that. But I've been involved in a number of press conferences. God, going all the way from you know professional league conferences to White House briefings to all that sort of thing. And it's not uncommon for a reporter to write a question down because you want to get all your thoughts there, and you don't want to you don't want to stand up and then have to think about what you're going to say when you're called upon. And it's again, he's got the commissioner right in front of him, and he has a question to ask, and he probably knows, you know what, this question is not going to make him happy, but I'm
Right.
asking it anyway. So I would think he probably would want to write it down in such a way as to make sure that he's framed it absolutely perfect, to not, to in his mind, not piss anybody off, but try to get the point across. So I don't think anybody handed it to him. I
Okay.
just think he wrote it down. He had something in mind. And when Brett asked him to repeat it, he, as I said before, when you're in situations like that, you tend to clutch up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you one that has stuck in my mind for years. This goes all the way back because I'm older than the Jurassic Park period. Um, Back when I was producing the John McKay show, and John was coaching Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now John was like Brett. I mean, he was media savvy beyond any reporter in the building, right? And this was during the Buccaneers for a year, right? For the entire year. And what happened is there was a press conference right after the game. Everybody in those days used to climb into the coach's office, which you get smashed together, and there was always the two main people, meaning in those days the sports editor of the Tampa Tribune, the sports editor of the St. Petersburg Times. They would, because of their gravitas, be given the opportunity to ask the first question. Now, when they didn't ask a question, that lets you to believe that, you know, maybe today is not the day that you decide to ask, your question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a young reporter that was from another outlet, and he stood up, and this was after they had just lost the game to, of all people, the Buffalo Bills. And it was when they had a chance to win. It was in the last seconds. And Dave Green, who was the kicker at the time, missed a chip shot field goal that would have given them the first win. It would have been at home. It would have been over Buffalo. At that time, with a guy by the name of O.J. Simpson as a running back. So, you know, here I am, 22 years old, working in there, going, I'm not going to ask a question. There's nothing, just I'm going to have him. I'm going to have him anyway on the coach's show. We'll worry about that later. The kid comes in. He's got this thing written down, and he's fumbling with the paper because he's never had a chance to talk to McKay. And he says to John, if Dave Green would have made that field goal, would he have gotten the game ball? And
Can't
John,
believe it.
being John, kind of, he wore that floppy hat thing, the bucket hat, and he had it pulled down a little bit. And he looks up and he says to his kid, said, "Son, did you go to college?"
Oh,
And he said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "It was, did your mom and dad help you with? I mean, with it, did they help you get through college?" And I'm thinking, where the hell is this going, right?
right.
And he said, "Yes, sir, they did." And he goes, "Here's what I would like you to do. I'll answer your question, but I'd like you to do this for me. First, I'll answer the question. I have no damn idea whether he would have or he wouldn't." He goes, "Giving game balls out is not my job, it's the team's job, so I can't answer that question. If you want that question answered, go in and talk to somebody in the locker room. Although, I would suggest this. What I'm asking you to do, since I've answered your question, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go home this afternoon. And are you going home to your parents, or, going home to your place, or are you going to see your parents anytime soon?" "Oh yeah, I'm going to see them." "Great. I want you to write a check for the amount of money it costs them to put you through school, because that's the stupidest damn question I've ever heard in my life. And if there's not a better question that can be answered, I'm out of here, because I damn sure don't want to sit in this place and listen to morons try to ask me questions that absolutely have nothing to do with the fact that we just lost yet another game. And it doesn't matter whether Dave would have kicked the thing or not. Who knows what the hell would have happened?" He goes, "Given our situation, they probably would have returned the kickoff, even though we might have had seconds left on the clock, and we still would have lost the game. So I have no idea." And he gets up and he leaves. So I've always kept that in mind when press conferences. I've seen press people burn. I mean, burn the reporters, and and just really rip them. I've seen other people who have been very clever at handling very delicate and very interesting questions. So I'm not so sure that writing it down or fumbling with it was more nerves than it was anything. I'll give him that credit. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But I guess what I'm saying is it's not uncommon for somebody who's getting the opportunity to ask a question to somebody that clearly is a major. He's the boss, and so you're asking him a question. It's going to be a little bit controversial, and you fumble around with it. Now, I would like to think that it was his question, and I would like to think that nobody gave him, asked this question for me. Because if that's the case, well, that's not going to get you anything anyway. So I don't see where that's a good idea.
I think the guy was a local Lubbock, like either the paper guy or local media.
Yeah.
Looking at him, I could be wrong. I don't think he's a spring chicken in terms of this being his first rodeo.
Oh no.
He's been around, and plus he was seated. I mean, because you get the picture, you get all the guys behind him. I mean,
Right.
One of the guys in the picture behind him, rubbing his face, I think was Scott Docterman. He's at the Athletic.
Yeah.
So this guy did not have like a nosebleed seat in the media.
No.
Yeah.
And he was,
Right.
he had I think a sports jacket on, blue sports jacket or something.
So it's like, I don't know either. And you're right. Like, we shouldn't cast too much aspersion. I'm just going, as you pointed out, off of your Mark's reaction, which from his reaction, like if would it seem reasonable of him maybe to look at this and go, did I just get set up? I don't know what's going on in his head. It seems to me in that moment a lot was going on in his head. That's why he's like, stand up, because a lot of times these guys are supposed to stand up when they're asking a question, right?
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes, okay. I don't know if I thought that was a little bit more of the normal thing to do, but he made him stand up, because then he had to stand up with the paper, right? Instead of just having it there on the desk, you had to stand up with the paper and show, I'm reading this off of paper. Like, it was, like you're saying, your Mark is like he's so savvy at this. Like, it's just instantaneous reaction. What it seemed to me, everything he did there was with purpose. And then once he got him to stand up and do it again, he just shut him down. Like, the whole point of what he did there was to get him to stand up, show he was reading off the paper, let everyone see who it was.
I want to burn this guy.
He did, but that's how he burned, though. He didn't get up there like you're saying, like this coach did, and just go through this.
I mean,
but he burned him nonetheless.
He burned him, and I guess the thing that I'm not gonna say troubled me, but just because that would make it seem like I lost sleep over it, which I didn't. But we have a lot of people here who have never been there, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've never sat in that room. They've never, had the opportunity to speak, in a gathering of other reporters where you don't want to embarrass yourself.
The visceral feeling of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't, unless you're in that arena, it's easy because the first thing out that I was hearing from a bunch of people, all over the, Podville situation was, it was a gotcha question. And,
yeah.
And is that's not fair? I mean, because, you go to things like that with the idea of saying, all right, I've got the opportunity to speak to this guy. I have something I want to ask him. It may not be something, as I said before, that he wants to hear. That's not my problem. And so I guess, as I said before, being through all of these different press conferences, you sit there and you're like, fine, but don't say it was a gotcha question when A, you don't know if it was, and B, you're tanking a guy who, let's, for the sake of argument, it's just he's one of you. He's a reporter. He did what he thought was the right thing to do, and it didn't work out for him. But there was such a bit of vitriol against the guy that I thought was, you know what? You don't like the question? Fine. That's okay. That's your right. But come on, don't dunk on the guy for it. I mean, it's childish.
I would definitely agree. Like, if it was just about that, would you say, like, so you don't get the feel at all that maybe your Mark felt that this was in some way?
I think it was less about the reporter and less about the question and more about the, I am pissed off about,
Yes,
I've heard so much about Tech that I do not want to answer a single damn more question about Texas.
Yeah, I agree with that. And whether or not he's thinking that anyone from Tech put the guy up or two or not, I mean, no one knows. No one will ever know.
No.
I just feel like this has probably been a very stressful thing for them to deal with internally, because he had all of his conference lined up against this school. Like, I made comparison. I was like, this is kind of similar to where in the Big Ten, how everyone was lined up against Michigan.
Yeah.
And that was stressful in the Big Ten, and this is stressful in the Big 12. And I think he was trying to get everyone like, okay, we're going towards the football season. Texas Tech is important, and stuff like this. It just kind of creates the next thing for everyone to be angry about.
Well, there's also the Cody Campbell, Brett Yormark dynamic. we don't know what we don't know, as the old saying goes, about how they get along. There's the openly situation where they're basically um, singing from the same songbook, which makes both of them look good. And then there's the times when they're not on the same page, and things are not great. So I do think, as we kind of wrap this up this afternoon, that what happened with that particular situation was less about the reporter, less about the question, more about Brett. Just I've had enough of Texas Tech. I sure as hell just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I could be wrong, but Brett's a pretty savvy guy, and I think that I could just see as he was walking over to the guy asking him to stand up.
Yeah.
That all right, I see this. Okay, I know what's coming. I can see it. I know he's pissed, but I don't. Again, I don't think he was pissed about the question. I think he was pissed about the fact that, are you asking me about effing Texas Tech again? Really? I don't want to talk about him. And I'm not gonna talk about it.
Which is
Okay.
why I think you saw the face palm. Some of the other folks is like, oh boy, that's just changed the tone. Like now,
it's
now.
By the way, just you talked about the stand-up routine. Normally, what in those press conferences when you've got the amount of people they had there, they want to get a microphone to somebody so that they can, you say, like I'm Jim Williams from Newsweek, and here's my question. They hand you the microphone. You don't have to stand up. You can, but you don't have to because you have the microphone and the guy can see you. So the fact that he was in front row, obviously Ben could see him. He's sitting right there. But he wanted him to stand up and ask the question again. So I don't think, like you said, I don't think he didn't hear it. I know he heard it, but I think the key here was he didn't want to talk about Texas Tech.
Yeah. Yep. I'd say that's probably the large bit of it. All the rest, people we could bring up, we'll never know. What you're saying is the obvious portion for sure. Is that was definitely not something that you want to talk about, and based upon some of the responses from some of the media guys, there might have been something put out ahead of time. Hey, look, we don't want to go into, because the guy didn't go into really the Sorsby situation directly. There's a lot about policies against them about tortillas, and then something else that another school did that didn't get against. Like,
it was the Oklahoma State paddle thing.
Yeah, it really wasn't. It was kind of about Sorsby, but not directly.
No.
So, like, even with the way it was worded, it was still whatever directive was out there. Like, don't ask questions about this thing. It was illegal. So, whatever. It didn't even break that.
Yeah.
which is maybe also what irritated him a little bit. I don't know. We could probably go on forever on that, but
man,
I just think your takes on it are pretty fascinating because you do have all of that.
I just
in-person experience.
I try to stay away from criticizing members of my own,
Sure.
of my own group, because Lord knows I've done enough stupid things in the past that if they wanted to go on dunking on me, they could probably do it. But I just think it's interesting. I just think it's interesting how that whole thing turned out. It's like there's came across like he was there on behalf of Cody. Wait. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Carla. But I've seen seasoned journalists that have had read from papers. So I don't, just because they read something doesn't necessarily mean somebody else gave it to them. And I'll wrap it up in fairness to this for Carla and for everybody else who might. It is possible. I will give you this. I'll grant you this. It is possible that was his editor. That's happened before. So look, I need you to ask this question. So did he write it? It may not have been his question. I'll give you that. It might have been his editor's question. So whatever it is, it's over now.
Yeah.
Nobody got killed, thank God. It was a day and a moment in time. So there you go. Well, thanks for dropping by. Greatly appreciate it. A lot of fun conversation here. We don't know what the monster deal is, so we're not going to bang anybody on that one until we find out what it is. And B, don't talk about Texas Tech.
There we go. To be continued on the monster thing, and hopefully not to be continued on the Texas Tech questions. There we go.
Thank God Bobby Knight wasn't there. Okay.
I appreciate it, man.
Hey, thanks everybody. Have a nice day, and thanks for dropping by.